In our audience today, we have Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, and it is such an honour to have him present amongst us. A serious candidate for the papacy and someone who's still noted as potentially the next pope. It's our great honour to have him in our presence today, all the way from the Philippines. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. He was appointed as the 32nd Archbishop of Manila in 2011 by Pope Benedict, who also named Bishop Tagle as one of the papally appointed Synod Fathers for the 13th Ordinary General Assembly of the Synod of Bishops on the new evangelization in 2012. Pope Benedict then named Bishop Tagle to the College of Cardinals. He's a member of many congregations, the Congregation for Catholic Education, Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, Congregation for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life, Pontifical Council for the Laity, and the 13th Ordinary Council of the Secretary General of the Synod of Bishops. On July the 11th, 2015, he was made a member of the Pontifical Council, Cor Unum. Cardinal Tagle was confirmed by Pope Francis as President of the Catholic Biblical Federation in 2015, and that same year he was elected President of Caritas International, and I think it's so significant that we are right next door to Caritas in Jerusalem. Your Eminence.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Are you still awake? Yes. You look like you're very much animated now. You know, I would like to thank the organizers of this conference, especially Dr. Enright, for thinking of me and inviting me here. I come very humbly as one of the many possible voices from the Christian world. I do not want to claim that my presentation will cover all the traditions within the Christian communion. I am a Catholic, and as Peter said, I am a bishop and cardinal, so yeah, my presentation will definitely be influenced by that. I received 7 questions that I was supposed to answer in this presentation. I will try my best to respond to the questions, but where I see the need to combine the questions, then I think that would save me a lot of time. So first is the fundamental question: what does the term "to forgive" mean in your tradition? Which I would like to address with the second question: what support in your ancient writings for this view could you give? You know, the Christian tradition accepts the Hebrew Bible. Of course, our Christian vision helps us interpret and receive the Hebrew Bible in a particular way. So following the beautiful discourse of Rabbi Sachs, I am trembling before you, and I'm thankful that he's not here. He might pull me down back to my seat, but no, he will not do that in a conference on forgiveness. But again, to our Jewish sisters and brothers here, I will present a Christian reading of the Hebrew Scripture from this perspective of forgiveness. According to some scholars, God is almost always the subject of the verb to forgive in its many forms. And by that, the Hebrew Bible tells us that guilt incurred by a particular offense against God, against the covenant relationship, is annulled by God's act of forgiving. And by that action of God, people are released from the power of guilt. It is a liberation. And by that release and liberation, persons are restored to a state of reconciliation. This reconciled state brings about spiritual blessings, also physical, material blessings, health, security, honor, even children. Exodus 34, verse 7, how God manifests God's self as a merciful, compassionate God. And that's good, huh? Health comes with forgiveness. Maybe every hospital must have that section. Many of the health issues might be connected to this imprisonment caused by the inability to forgive. Am I still making sense here? No, yes. So forgiveness by God and later on by human beings towards other human beings is concerned about the means by which those have been alienated from God or from one another. An alienation, a separation dealt on us by sin, by evil. How could we be reconciled to God and also to one another? But it is only because God is a God who is willing to forgive that forgiveness between peoples is possible. The forgiving love of God comes from God's mercy and compassion. And the word rahamim, this graciousness of God, this compassion of God, is related to the womb. This is the maternal attachment of God to God's people. An attachment that a mother fully understands. May I know who among you here are mothers? Yeah. You understand it. This is the maternal instinct of God. No matter what you do or what you are, I may disagree with what you have done, but you came from my womb. You are my child. So it comes from the guts. It comes from the inner and sacred part of God, described or compared to a mother. Can a mother forget her child? Even if a mother forgets her child, I will never forget you. Forgiveness, therefore, is a manifestation of God's fidelity to persons who are not considered as other, alien, but as my own. Forgiveness is not substituting something so that the damage done by the evil could be erased. No. We have a God who is sympathetic, not apathetic. A God who is always with those whom God had created and has made his own. I know that is a quite simplistic summing up of this very complex theme, but I chose this in order to lead me to the New Testament, to the figure of Jesus, and how refreshing it is to hear from Rabbi Sachs how Jesus was most a Jew when he prayed that, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. And for the Christians, Jesus proclaims in word and deed God, and he incarnates the mercy, the merciful, forgiving love of God. In the New Testament written in Greek, the word for forgiveness is aphesis, which is very much in line with the Hebrew scripture, which means remittance of a debt, release from debt. So again, the image of liberation. But with the release of the person from indebtedness, you do not just return to a status ante. No. The relationship remains. So there is a distinction between the evil act and the person. Jesus taught us many things, especially in parables. It's easier to talk about forgiveness through narrative rather than through concepts and notions. That's why Jesus' teachings regarding forgiveness and mercy either happened in concrete encounters with people whom he thought needed forgiveness, needed that release from entrapment, or through narratives. Some of the most important parables of forgiveness are in the 15th chapter of the Gospel according to St. Luke. The first parable of the lost sheep, the shepherd leaving the 99 good sheep in search of the one that is lost. The second is the lost coin, the woman who cleans up the whole house in search of that one coin. And the third is the prodigal son. Yeah, the lost sheep. Why would you leave the 99 in search of one that is lost or probably wounded? If you're a businessman, that one lost sheep, whether wounded or ill, is a liability. You already have a business asset in the 99. Why leave the 99 that are profitable for the one that might even cost you a lot? And the only reason is, it is mine. It might be wounded, but it is mine. And if it cannot come home, I will carry it home. And later on, Jesus will say, that's a mark of the Good Shepherd. He lays down his life for his sheep. It is not a loss of life, because the sheep are his own connectedness of life. The prodigal son, the son returns home. if I were the father of that son, I would have really met him at the gate and say, "Stop. Explain to me. What have you done to the inheritance that I had given you? I needed an accounting." But here, you don't see that. No questions. It is the son who was supposed to restore what he had wasted. But instead, in the parable, the father restores the son to the dignity of being son. It doesn't matter whether the wealth is not restored. Restitution in this case. What is important is my son. And here, the words are very significant. The son was lost and is found. The son was dead and is back to life. So our belief in the resurrection is already linked to the power of new life being offered to someone who wants to be restored in one's identity as a child of God and who wants to come home. And Jesus, in his other teachings, would say in Matthew chapter 5, "Blessed are the merciful, for they will find mercy." And in St. Luke chapter 6, "Be merciful." Why? Because the Lord, the Father, is merciful. And in the prayer that Jesus taught us, we ask God to forgive us our debts as we forgive those who have transgressed against us. And in another parable in Matthew 18, you have this servant who was forgiven of his debts by the master. But then he met someone, a fellow servant, who owed him less than what he had owed the master. But he failed to forgive his fellow servant. And that, he incurred the ire of the master. He said, "You had been forgiven. How come you could not forgive?" So here, having experienced the forgiveness of God, we are hopefully equipped to forgive others too. Having experienced God's gracious forgiveness in our lives and being attentive to that, I do not merit it, but God loves me to wholeness. God restores me to my humanity. If I have experienced that from God, why could I not share that gift to other people? So this is fidelity to God, fidelity to my humanity, and fidelity also to the humanity of other people. Are we still together? Okay. Again, I'm sorry if I'm oversimplifying things, but I am trying to just focus on a few things. Now, that's the first two questions. Now, the third question given to me, what are the rituals or the customs in your tradition for expressing forgiveness towards other people? Now, this question really got me thinking. What rituals do we have, for example, in the Catholic Church, for expressing forgiveness, telling other people, "I forgive you"? You know, in the Catholic Church, and I guess in many of the churches or communities within the Christian tradition, we have a lot of rituals to accept that we need forgiveness. We are the ones who need to be forgiven. Rituals where we admit our fault. For example, even in the sacraments, baptism, the response to God's forgiving grace is faith. The Eucharist, at the beginning of the Eucharist, we admit we are sinners and say, Lord, have mercy. And in the memorial of Jesus' passion and resurrection, we recall how that loving death into life, into new life, brought us forgiveness too. And then we have the sacrament of reconciliation with confession. We have the anointing of the sick. These are all expressions, ritual, sacramental expressions of our need to be forgiven. But a ritual to say to people, to others, we forgive you. Maybe the Christians here could help me think about them, Yeah. The closest that I could find were statements. Like, for example, in Vatican II, and the Professor Sachs already mentioned it, Nostra Aetate, where it's the declaration on the relationship of the Church to non-Christian religions. And there you have some sort of mutuality. The Catholic Church admits that it had offended some of our brothers and sisters from the non-Christian religions. And there is always a line saying that we also pardon you for the hurt that we have experienced also from them. But I would appreciate, getting some input on this. During the Jubilee of the year 2000, I know in local churches, they had some rituals of mutual forgiveness. Not only asking for pardon, but also expressing forgiveness to other people who have offended us. Now, the fourth question, what are the misunderstandings to forgive? But here, I would say the misunderstandings of the Christian vision of forgiveness comes not only from other religions, and I am in no position to evaluate their view of the Christian understanding of forgiveness. But I also see some misunderstandings from within the Christian tradition and also in general. Let me indicate a few. And here we rely on Dr. Enright, and I used also a bit of Robert Schreiter and Cardinal Walter Casper's studies. One is, I always hear this, oh, you are a Christian. Forget the past so you could forgive. Forgetting is quite difficult. Especially when you have been offended. But does forgiveness really require forgetting? And can you still forgive even when you remember? Maybe it's not forgetting, but it is remembering in a new way. A new relationship to the past, a purification of memory, and therefore a new relationship with the people who have caused me harm. I think God can forgive us because God does not forget. God can forgive because God always remembers. And in Psalm 103, God knows that we are made of dust, and God remembers we are made of dust. Remembering that, God's heart, God's womb is moved to covenantal love. remembering the dead is important for forgiveness, but remembering not as captives to pain and revenge, but having a new relationship to that past. Second, forgiveness and justice are contrary. If you want to be just, then you should be strong, not to forgive. And if you want to be forgiving, then you should abandon justice. Rabbi Sachs gave a wonderful presentation on that. But even from the biblical perspective, I think these two don't need to fight each other. For justice is based on truth. Truth. Truth is also one of the foundations of human forgiveness, especially human forgiveness. If I ask for forgiveness, if I'm willing to receive the gift of forgiveness from God or from other people, part of my reception of the gift of forgiveness is I must also accept that I have sinned. And this is one of the big problems of our time. Cardinal Casper said, we are losing the sense of sin in our time. But if nobody admits that he or she has committed sin, and nobody admits that, then nobody would want also to be forgiven. Why will I ask for forgiveness if I have not done anything wrong? So justice and mercy must meet in the truth that I must admit I have sinned, and then I am ready to accept the gift of forgiveness too. One other misunderstanding that I often hear is, you must forgive totally, immediately. Yeah. If you can do that, then okay, why not? But it oppresses people, and it violates your humanity again. You are hurt by your project of forgiveness. If you are not able to forgive the next minute, then you are labeled like you are inhuman, you are not a good Christian, you are not a good person, this or that. But we need, I think, to respect the human heart. We see this in God, the patience of God, because God remembers we are made of dust. And God remembers in Hosea, when God was so angry, I said, I took care of you when you were a child. I clothed you. I taught you how to walk. And then you turned away from me. And the wrath of God was there. And all of a sudden, God remembered, wait a minute. I am God. God remembered, I am God. And then he remembered, they are human. Yeah. God can respect human processes. We need to acknowledge the feeling of having been violated or betrayed. And then we also need time to make the choice. Will I remain here feeling like a victim? Or could I choose to be freed from this self-image of being a victim, and all the time trampled upon, and then filled with anger and revenge? There is a human process, and I don't think it is against the Christian understanding of God, of forgiveness, for us to, yes. But we need to work. We cannot make it as an excuse. Give me time. You're 120 years old already. But have you taken the first step already with God's grace? No? Yeah. Okay, I'm coming to the close. I think you need coffee or something. Yeah. Yeah. You can forgive me. Now, the fifth question given to me was, how can we use the idea of forgiving to help heal the divisions? Now, I think the presentation so far from Rabbi Sachs and so far what I have said already give us some indications. But let me just highlight a few things. For me, first is for all of us to remember, at least those who profess a certain religion, especially the monotheistic religions, for us to always remember in faith that it is God who forgives. And ultimately, it is only God who forgives. But if God can forgive, and we have experienced God's forgiveness, could we not be bearers of that very godly, divine action towards other people? Or are we pretending to be above God? Or have we made ourselves into another God? The second is, we are able to forgive, and let us believe this. We have the capacity to forgive because God allows us to participate in God's act of mercy, compassion, and love. We are not just recipients of forgiveness. We are participants in God's loving and forgiving activity. And thirdly, through forgiveness, or leading up to forgiveness, we discover our shared human condition, our shared humanity. This will help us, I guess, move from being judgmental to being more understanding and forgiving. Let me make a confession. As a priest, I hear confessions. And one thing that has not failed to amaze me is, wow, these people who come to the confessional with their burden of sin and guilt, they are like me. If I am humble, I realize I am as sinful as they are. And maybe if I were in their shoes, I could have done worse things. And realizing that we share in the same human condition makes me less judgmental and hopefully would equip me to be an instrument of God's covenant love. The last questions, which I merge now. Forgiving communities. Yeah. As Rabbi Sachs said, yes, it's a deeply personal thing, but we hope it could also influence communities and help form communities. Well, after all, communities are made up of individuals. Yeah, and we hope that starting with the families, forgiveness could be a mark of a true human and spiritual community. Can we make it already a deliberate action, a decision, that every community, to be called a community, must form in its vision, values, and lifestyle, must incorporate forgiveness, beginning with families. In Asia, one big big witness to the forgiveness that could lead to a new world is the presence of many interfaith or interreligious marriages. I know there are difficulties. It's not always easy to have a couple of different religions, and then they have questions like, how do you raise the children? And the children are very wise. They know when Mama would say yes and when Papa would say no, so they could play the games too. No? But I have met wonderful couples who claim, my husband's forgiving love towards me has made me a better Christian. And the husband is Hindu. I was able to interview a Hindu guy who said, the Lord blessed me with such a wonderful wife. And he jokingly told me, your church has really formed her well. She is making me a better person and a better Hindu. Wow. And in countries where conflicts, especially in Asia, would always have some religious undertones, whether real or fabricated, the witness of these families and their openness, to declare it in public, is a very, very good help. In schools, we hope, school communities. I have a very good friend, a Muslim girl who studied in Catholic schools. And now she heads a movement called Teach Peace. She goes to Catholic schools to tell them about Islam, so that the prejudices acquired by the children could be somehow prevented from spreading. And she addresses groups, especially young people among the Muslims, to tell them about Christianity, the Christianity that she had learned about, and the Christians that she had encountered in her school. Now, she is one of our collaborators for peace in Mindanao, especially the city of Marawi. She sends me text messages and she would say, I need to talk with someone. Could I visit you tonight? And so you have a Muslim girl, a Catholic Cardinal talking there about deep things of the Spirit, to be of service to other people. The healing of prejudices and not passing them on. Personal encounters. Rabbi Sachs talks about friendship. This really makes a lot of difference. In our world today, many people are afraid of other people, when in fact they have not met a single person from that group that they're afraid of. And this is spreading. Fear of the unknown. That's why as a Caritas International organization, we are launching in September an international campaign on migration based on the culture of personal encounter. These are human beings. Encounter them. Touch their hands. And through this common humanity, hopefully we could discover a path towards peace. Let us concentrate on building relationships that liberates and frees the offender and the offended, rather than building more walls or burning the bridges that are already in place. Let us help liberate each other, for it is not just the offender that is in need of being released by forgiveness. The person, the wounded, should also be liberated or released from the temptations of hatred and vengeance. And we hope that this could reach the political communities. As Rabbi Sad said, we need leaders. But the world right now has only one image of leadership. You must be strong in the sense that you don't hesitate to use brute force. When you try to work for forgiveness and peace, they will say you're a weak leader. But no, in our tradition, we say a good leader is first and foremost human. And in the Christian tradition, forgiveness is a way of being human. It's a way of restoring humanity. It is being human in a godly way. And it is showing that God could have a human face through forgiveness. Okay, that's enough. Thank you very much for your patience.
Don't take mine. Thank you, Cardinal. We now have our well-earned morning tea break, although when I say that, I want to say in all humility that I am so grateful to be here and hear the wisdom. But at precisely 20 minutes to 12, our overseas guest, my dear friend Dr. Adamu Najoya, will be up here speaking. So when we take our morning tea break, please do return to the hall so that you don't miss his opening. So we really only have 20 minutes. The toilets are to the right as you go out and downstairs. The biscuits and cookies, whatever language you want to use, there is kosher and halal there you can take with freedom. Just the kosher and halal, the Notre Dame baked is not kosher, but the supplied ones from us are. And the sweets, the lollies are. Take your break and we will see you back here in time to begin at 22 sharp.